Hey, Blake T. Wild here, and welcome back to the second installment of my year-long coverage of my favorite Marvel comic series, Squadron Supreme. It's the best Justice League story ever told. If you haven't seen the previous episode, I highly suggest you check it out because, you know, this is an episodic series, so make sure you get caught up there. This episode, however, is where stuff it really starts kicking into high gear at this point. It's been exactly it's been 1 month since we last saw our heroes of the Squadron Supreme of America, which means that they've had exactly 1 month to work on their Project Utopia to resave the world. And make sure you like and subscribe for more content just like this. Let's get right into it, because I'm really excited. Released in 1985, written by Mark Gruenwald with pencils by Bob Hall, inks by John Beatty, and colors by Christy Scheel. This is Squadron Supreme number 2, A Small Sacrifice. Previously on Squadron Supreme! The book begins at the edge of the stratosphere as Hyperion, with his awesome might, struggles with halting the crashing 347-ton Squadron satellite base.
There it is. The finest man-made object ever put into the sky. The satellite headquarters of the Squadron Supreme. Now a dilapidated husk. If only we had gotten through it a bit sooner, we might have been able to correct its decay in orbit. Maybe it was meant to come crashing down on our heads.
The Squadron arrive at their temporary base, and later, after everyone is situated, they begin their emergency meeting. The heroes note that the world they once protected is in utter shambles, and it's their fault. Nuke argues that they had nothing to do with it, since they were controlled by the Overmind, but Wizard points out that, to the people, especially the American people, it doesn't matter what strange tale they tell of an alternate universe mind-controlling alien villain. They still failed to protect the world. The United States government, the American system, myself as a president, how can we say it was all a mistake? That we were under some alien's control and expect them to believe us or forgive us? We can't.
Defeatist talk will get us nowhere, Kyle. It is deeds, not words, that will restore our credibility and save the world in the process.
We should not just randomly stop super criminals, an alien invader, or a natural disaster and leave the rest of the world's problems unaddressed. Problems which inflict the majority of mankind with suffering and death. We should actively pursue solutions to all the world's problems. Abolish war and crime, eliminate poverty and hunger, establish equality among all peoples, clean the environment, cure diseases.
How meaningful will a utopia be if it's a gift and not something that has been earned by mankind's own labors? And what if they don't accept it? Will you force them to take it?
If there's a way to save countless lives who would have been lost to all of these afflictions, and we don't try to implement it, what kind of heroes would we be? Argonite, the one radioactive isotope that Hyperion isn't immune to. Thumb hoped to discover why it was so lethal to Hyperion and find a way to immunize him. Never succeeded. I've got a different use for it. Without Hyperion, the Squadron would not have the raw power to bring about the Utopia program. A single bullet made of Argonite would be enough to kill him. But, God, do I have the guts to kill my best friend in order to keep the world free? It shouldn't take long to carve the bullet.
My fellow Americans and peoples of the world, I hereby resign as President of the United States of America. I now turn you over to Hyperion of the Squadron Supreme. Thank you, Mr. President. Citizens of America and all nations, do not panic. We, the Squadron Supreme of America, hereby assume supreme authority in all matters pertaining to world security and survival. In exchange for your utmost cooperation and support, we, the Squadron Supreme, hereby vow to you
to solve all the problems known to men and women of all nations, not just brought on in recent days, but those known to mankind since time immemorial. We vow to eliminate hunger, poverty, war, crime, disease, pollution, and oppression within 1 year from tonight. If we cannot do so in that time period, we will voluntarily give up any and all authority hereby invested in us. We are the world's best hope.
The book begins high above the city of Sigmund. Dr. Spectrum uses his power prism to carry thousands of boxes of food rations along with Tom Thumb and the Golden Archer. They drop down into a big parking lot where thousands of residents are waiting, and the heroes then just sort of stand aside as people begin loading up on rations and dispersing them among the community. The mayor of the city rocks up to personally thank them for everything the squadron is doing and asks if they could say a few words to the citizens. So the mayor, Archer, Doc, and Tom Thumb climb onto the back of a flatbed truck as the mayor announces the 3 mighty members of the Squadron Supreme of America and hands over his megaphone.
Thank you, Mayor. This emergency food distribution program we've been on for the past few weeks will soon be at an end. The nation's roads have finally been cleared and the food industry is back on track. Thank you all for your patience. Yeah, same goes for me. Once we get this country back on its feet, I promise you we're gonna make America better than ever.
All yours, Mr. Mayor. The mayor then continues his speech when 3 men jump on the truck and take him hostage. They order the super fascists to put down their weapons, and Archer and Dr. Spectrum reluctantly comply. The ringleader reveals that they are a part of a group called Freedom Force, and they have deemed that due to the Squadron Supreme's, crimes against humanity that happened before this series, they are sentenced to death. More agents of the Freedom Force reveal themselves, and they corral the trio off the truck and out into the open, where they prepare to execute the would-be tyrants. The leader announces that Freedom Force will not rest until all of the Squadron Supreme pays for their crimes. And now that they have Dr. Spectrum's power prism, they can ensure retribution. But then the prism comes to life, striking through the gun of the ringleader and flying back into Dr. Spectrum's hands. Golden Archer begins launching arrows by hand at the surprised Freedom Force members as Spectrum captures their weapons in spheres of pure light. The duo quickly apprehend the 10 men as Tom Thumb sulks and watches on. Several hours later, in southern Winnebago, again, it's based off of the DC comics, obviously, so there's just... the closest thing we really have to the real world is the fact that the country's called the United States of America. Everything else, who knows where the fuck these places are? It's not like they ever made a map showing the Squadron Supreme's Earth version of the United States. Although it would be fun to try and figure out, based on what everything looks like, where it is. We know Capital City, New Troy, and another one that's like kind of New Jersey. Those are pretty obvious. Capital City is DC, you know. But these other ones, where the fuck is southern Winnebago? I imagine it's up north somewhere, right? Anyway, Nuke and Whizzer race down the streets when Nuke breaks off, telling Whizzer that he has some personal matters to attend to. Whizzer allows it, and he continues racing away. And he just kind of figures that Nuke is too much of like a young teenage rebel to really open up to any issues that he might have to a straight-laced guy like the Whizzer. Later, outside of Motor City, Albert Gaines, aka Nuke, arrives at the hospital where his mother and father are inpatients. He greets them softly and reluctantly, and asks how they are. And his mother, looking at her son from gaunt, sunken eyes, tells him that she and his father don't have much time left. Albert again asks them what's wrong, what happened to him. And his father finally reveals that the doctors claim that they have radiation poisoning. Tonight's meeting is hereby called to order. Hyperion presiding. I notice that Nuke isn't here yet. Let's begin as usual with progress reports on the day's assignments. I'm pleased to announce that as of noon today, the U.S. Mint is back in operation and the banks are reopening on Wednesday.
75% of the food processing plants in the Northeast are back in business. Arcana and I are going out to the West Coast tomorrow.
Nuke and I have made sure all the internment camps were evacuated and that food was delivered to the nation's prisons. I calculate that 95% of all electrical and natural gas power has been restored. The rest will be operational by the end of the week. My group ran into a little problem with some gun-toting reactionaries today. Seems like they don't forgive us for our involvement in the dark days.
As soon as the food crisis is over, we've got to begin the disarmament program.
I recommend that we be on the lookout for new members to bolster our ranks. There's still so much to do, and...
Greetings, Squadron. I have returned.
Scarlet Centurion!
You have beaten me the last 3 times I've tried to conquer your primitive era. This time, with your world tottering on the brink of collapse, you shall not prevail. I have an army of 10,000 of my finest temporal warriors preparing to enter your era.
Listen to me, Centurion. We've always let you retreat to your own time when your pitiful campaigns have failed. But this time, we won't. If you dare attack us now, I swear by all my ancestors, I will kill you.
Bah! You take all the pleasure out of conquest. Very well. I will call back my legions. I'd rather not conquer a world already in ruin.
Well, with that out of the way, the squadron just continue with their meeting. Also, Captain Hawk has now rebranded himself as Blue Eagle. It's to, remember his father, who was the original, Eagle or Blue Eagle or whatever during World War II or something. Anyway, he brings up the fact that their ex-president and former member of the Squadron Supreme, Kyle Richmond, has not been heard of ever since. Hyperion informs them that Nighthawk's mansion has seemingly been abandoned for the past month. Since their last meeting in Washington, D.C., he hasn't seen or heard a thing from his old friend. And with that, the meeting is adjourned, and Doc Spectrum informs everyone that tonight is poker night. Everyone either joins in or watches the poker game commence. Hyperion and Zarda, the Power Princess, have a discussion regarding the new president-elect, Gardner, and no one notices Tom Thumb as he gets out of his seat and leaves the room. Later in the headquarters, Tom arrives in his lab/workshop, lamenting being the odd man out once again. He greets Ada, who excitedly tells him that she missed him today and asks how the assignments went. He says it was interesting, but he didn't really get to do much other than just sit around and watch. Then he asks her to load up the programs he has plans on working on tonight. Several hours later, Tom is the only member awake as he works away in his lab. And suddenly Nuke appears and sheepishly knocks on the doorway, asking if it's possible that his energy level could be increasing. Tom leads him over to the energy analyzer that he constructed and instructs Nuke to place his hands inside and let it rip. Ada runs a diagnostic and compares it to the past energy readings for Nuke. And she discovers that there has been a net increase of 52%. Nuke asks if that means that his radioactivity has also increased. Tom says that it unquestionably has. Nuke then asks if he could be putting anyone in danger if he's giving off radiation when he's not consciously trying to.
Well, your body's rad level has definitely crossed into the toxic range. But I calculate a person would have to spend at least 5 hours a day alongside you for a very long period of time in order to be in any real danger of radiation poisoning. I could whip up a radiation containment suit.
Good idea. Tom, how much do you know about cancer?
Why do you ask?
Can I trust you, Tom? Not to tell the others?
Yeah, of course, son.
It's my folks. They're in the hospital. That's why I missed the meeting. They're suffering from cancer, Tom. Radiation poisoning, it's according to the doctors. I think it's my fault. I still live at home. I don't have a lot of friends. I'm busy with my job and Squadron. And I'm around my folks all the time, and they don't even know I'm Nuke. I never told them, and now they're gonna die because of me. And now they're gonna die because of me.
Is there anything I can do, Nuke?
Yes, please. You're the smartest guy in the world, Tom. If there's anyone who can do it, it's you.
Do what?
Find a cure for cancer.
Find a cure for cancer? Yeah, I can try. That's really all I can.
Thank you, Tom, thank you. I'll never forgive this, thank you so much. I'll leave you to it. My folks, they don't have a lot of time left. If something happened to my folks, oh, I don't know what I'd do. Thank you, Tom. Nuke then leaves, and Tom wonders to Ada what the hell he just agreed to. And she quickly replies that he promised something that pretty much everybody says is impossible. Tom slams his fist into the table before him and shouts that it can't be impossible. He'll find a way. Then he asks her to find all available cancer research data. Many hours later, after the sun has risen, Hyperion finds Tom asleep at his console. He tells Tom that they're having morning roll call soon, and Tom needs to eat because they've got quite a long day before him. Tom asks if he could take himself off of the field work due to the amount of projects he's going to have to be working on, and Hyperion tells him of course he can. After all, Tom is their top brain. He knows where to make himself more useful than anyone else does. Tom then makes himself some coffee and instructs Ada to prevent him from falling asleep again. Later that morning, at the George Orwell Bridge between New Wesley and New Troy, Blue Eagle, Lady Lark, and Nuke soar through the sky in search of any mobs that may attempt to waylay the convoys of food heading to Cosmopolis. Then Nuke sends off a trouble signal. A gigantic mob of people flood into the street and storm the supply trucks. Lady Lark orders Nuke and Blue Eagle to clear the area before she uses her sonic voice to order the mob to stand down and wait to pick up rations at Central Park. It does not work, and Nuke lets out his anger on the starving citizens as the mobs run away in panic, stampeding over one another. And Lady Lark, realizing that Nuke has gone way overboard, uses her sonic blast to incapacitate him, and he's caught by Blue Eagle, who demands to know what the fuck Nuke just did. Nuke apologizes for getting carried away and begs Eagle not to report him to Hyperion. Later at the evening meeting, Hyperion notes that the presidential meetup went very well, and they have another one scheduled for next week. Nuke thinks how lucky he is that Eagle and Lark didn't bring up his outburst, and the meeting is called to an end. And then Nuke finds Tom. The two head to Tom's lab, where he reveals the radiation containment suit. Nuke takes the suit and then asks about the cancer cure. Tom informs him that their primary concern right now is prevention to ensure Nuke doesn't contaminate anybody else. And then Tom climbs up onto his work stool and tells the young man that he can now devote his full time to search for the cure. And later that night, as Nuke prepares to test flight his new suit, Lady Lark and the others play charades in the lounge room. And Tom Thumb locks his door to ensure there are no disturbances, and then has Ada run a tissue sample on himself to have some undiseased cells to compare to Nuke's parents. Days pass as Tom works relentlessly, living off of stimulants and the occasional ration bar, poring over reams of data, conducting exhaustive tests, and finally, 8 days later, he realizes it truly is impossible. Nuke then arrives and tells Tom that his parents have taken a turn for the worse. Tom angrily tells him that he's almost to a breakthrough. He just needs more time. Time is his greatest enemy. And then it hits him. He heads down to the storage room where they keep the salvaged equipment from the old satellite base, and inside a crate he locates a transtemporal soma projector that he invented. He instructs Ada to process some chronal coordinates, places the helmet atop his head, and tells her that he's about to make a deal with the devil. Then Tom is ruptured through the space-time continuum and travels faster than the flow of time itself until he appears 5 feet in the air inside the throne room of the Emperor of the 40th century, Scarlet Centurion. Tom falls to the ground, and Scarlet Centurion recognizes him as none other than one of his ancient foes, Tom Thumb. Tom shouts out that he wants words alone with the Emperor of Time. Scarlet Centurion, intrigued, orders everyone to leave.
Now, what, pray tell, can I do for you, small one?
I've come to make a bargain.
Have you now?
In one of your many campaigns against the Squadron, I remember yours saying that one of the reasons why you attacked us is because you ran out of challenges here in your home century.
That is correct.
You said you conquered everything, even disease. Is that true? You've cured every disease? Even cancer?
Decades ago.
I want it, Centurion. Your cure for cancer. I'm willing to give you anything for it. Even my life.
Anything? This must mean a great deal to you. Let me have someone fetch what it is you want so we can see what it is you are bargaining for. And let me tell you a little something about my panacea potion. It was developed by my research team at my request some time ago. To my knowledge, I am the only being to possess it for the next 40-odd centuries. If you decide not to deal with me, I could not begin to guess where you might look elsewhere for such a prize. The panacea potion cures all diseases known to man. All failings of the flesh and bone, including the ravages of age. With it, I have made my subjects functionally immortal. It is an object of great worth. But I am a humanitarian, and I am willing to share my gift with you, Tom Thumb. In return for a small sample of the panacea potion, I want you to take something to your esteemed leader, Hyperion, Aragonite, the oh-so-rare substance to which Hyperion is vulnerable.
I won't kill Hyperion for you!
All I want is for you to sprinkle the contents of the capsule in his food. This minute amount won't kill him. Just weaken him a little. Just enough to allow his utter defeat at my hands.
I can't... If he fell, you'd try to conquer the whole world!
Perhaps. But consider this. If you introduce the panacea potion to your world 2,000 years before mine, how many billions of lives would you be saving, Tom? How many billions of people would not know death? Billions of lives against a mere one. Such a great gift, such a small sacrifice.
I can't do it. I can't betray my only friends like that. Damn you!
You pathetic little man.
Tom, you're back. Why are you crying?
I failed, Ada. God help me. It was my last hope and I couldn't do it. I failed.
Tom? You awake?
Nuke, I'm glad you're here. I have to tell you, I can't cure cancer. I've tried. You have to believe how much I've tried.
You little creep! You lied to me! I counted on you and you failed, and when my parents die, it'll be your fault, not mine! When they do, I'll make sure you pay for it!
I'm sorry, Nuke. Truly sorry. We're supposed to be heroes, and heroes don't betray each other for any reason. If it's any consolation, your parents won't be dying alone. Thanks to all those tests I ran on myself, I learned something new. I'm dying of cancer, too.
I hope you enjoyed. As always, let me know what you thought of this comic in the comments below. Let me know any suggestions below as well. Is this your first time ever seeing the Squadron Supreme comic series? If it is, let me know what you think of the first 2 issues as I've covered them. I highly recommend reading them for yourselves. It's, like I said, it's the best comic series Marvel has ever put out in my eyes. I love it. It's incredible. This is a depressing, dark story, but don't worry. It gets even more dark and depressing as the months go on. Scarlet Centurion Bait and Switch was fun. You know, the cover is the classic sort of Silver Age Justice League. I'll face you, villain! Kind of design and layout. And then he shows up, Hyperion threatens to kill him, and then he just leaves. And I love the reworking of classic superhero elements that Mark Grunwald just so expertly inverts. Like, just everything we're about to see, it really is Watchmen before Watchmen. It takes all of these classic sort of hero tropes, i.e. the Justice League, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, Aquaman, kind of, Black Canary, whoever Tom Thumb would be, and it makes them into real people who aren't just black and white. That there's a lot of gray morality that sort of shifts into this series, and then it just becomes a bit more stark and contrasted with a slight tinge of just kind of apathy in a way. Like, what is it? All roads lead to hell, or the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That is this story. That is absolutely this story. And it does it far better than Injustice ever did, than Kingdom Come ever did, than Watchmen ever did. And it's just such a great series. Tom Thumb is probably my favorite character of the Squadron Supreme. I just think he's just the best out of all of them because he's a good guy all around. Like all of the other ones, they usually have some sort of inner turmoil. Tom's, because he is a dwarf for a little person. I've never liked the term little person. Let me just bring that up. I never got why that was the better term. Like, out of all the words you can invent, why little person? Because like, oh, look at you, you're a little person. Like, doesn't that seem a little like more insensitive in a way? Anyway, because he has had to deal with that for all of his life. We see it at the beginning. We saw it a little bit in the first issue. Most of his teammates don't respect him. Hyperion and Nighthawk were maybe Power Princess, like the Trinity. They were probably the ones who respected him the most. And now they just are too busy to really speak with him or spend any time with him. He's always sort of been the odd one out just because the others don't like him that much. They ignore him outright. They don't take him seriously because he's a dwarf. Even though he's the world's smartest man. He's just... It's a sad existence that he is this genius superhero who can invent these wonderful technologies, and that's all that they really use him for. They just sort of string him along, and he even says they're his only friends. He has Ada, other than that, I guess, but he doesn't have anybody else in the world. He's the only one who doesn't go back to someone in the first issue to let them know that they're all revealing their identities. Also, his name is Tom Thumb. You think he gave himself that name? Or you think some other, like the media did or something? Because Tom Thumb's a story about a tiny little man. I really enjoy the role of Tom Thumb in this series and where it goes. This issue and then a later issue are really the bookends for the Tom Thumb series, or the Tom Thumb story. Nuke, piece of shit. Not as bad as another certain character in this comic that you'll see. It gets really fucked up what happens later. I don't want to give it away who it is, but there's a fucked up storyline that's coming within the next couple issues. Like at about the halfway point, I'll just say this. Tom Thumb, for their prison reworking system, he creates a sort of lobotomization machine kind of thing, or like a mind wipe brainwash kind of device, and let's just say it gets misused by one of the quote-unquote heroes that we're supposed to root for. But yeah, like I said, it's going to be getting even darker and more depressing. It's a dark story. It really is. With the guise of bright, colorful superheroes, there's a dark, sad story underneath. But I love it. I think it's great. What else do I have to say? Nuke, we're going to see what happens with his storyline in the next issue next month. So stay tuned for that. And we'll eventually getting more Hyperion, and we'll find out what Nighthawk has been up to in the next issue or two, I believe, if I remember correctly. So stay tuned for that. As always, like and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram at NotBlakeWild. Check out my Patreon and my Etsy shop. And I will see you guys next month for issue 3 of the Squadron Supreme. And I'll see you next week for whatever the next video is. Stay tuned the next couple seconds. Watch the outro. Bye.